This may take a little while. I've edited it a little bit. But just lean in and be the little child hearing a Christmas story. This is a story that was shared with me as a child by my parents. It's a story by Truman Capote. Most people know Truman Capote because he wrote In Cold Blood. If you've read In Cold Blood, raise your hands. A few of you. And this is a far cry from that. Truman Capote was dear friends with Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. In fact, the little boy, I can't call his name now, who comes into town for the summer and is wearing the little very prissy jumper short outfit, that is Truman Capote. So my family would make a Christmas cake called a Lane cake, and it required bourbon, and that was the only time that hard spirit was in my house. So when it came time to make the Lane cake, my parents would read this story to us. You can go online this afternoon and you will do yourself a great favor. And you can actually hear Truman Capote read this on YouTube. Just Google Truman Capote, A Christmas Memory. So hear this story and see if you can find light and love in darkness and brokenness. Imagine a morning in late November, a coming of winter morning more than 20 years ago. Consider the kitchen of a spreading old house in a country town. A great black stove is its main feature, but there is also a big round table and a fireplace with 2 rocking chairs placed in front of it. Just today, the fireplace commenced its seasonal roar. A woman with shorn white hair is standing at the kitchen window. She is wearing tennis shoes and a shapeless gray sweater over a summery calico dress. She is small and sprightly, like a bantam hen, but due to a long youthful illness, her shoulders are pitifully hunched. Her face is remarkable, not unlike Lincoln's, craggy like Lincoln's, and tinted by sun and wind, but it is delicate too, finely boned, and her eyes are sherry-colored and timid. "Oh my," she exclaimed, her breath smoking the window pane, "it's fruitcake weather." The person to whom she is speaking is myself. I am 7. She is 60-something. We are cousins, very distant ones, and we have lived together well as long as I can remember. Other people inhabit the house, relatives, and though they have power over us and frequently make us cry, we are not on the whole too much aware of them. We are each other's best friend. She calls me Buddy, in memory of a boy who was formerly her best friend. The other Buddy died in the 1880s when she was still a child. She is still a child. He goes on to talk about November and what happens to inaugurate the Christmas season. "It's fruitcake weather. Fetch our buggy. Help me find my hat." Together we guide our buggy, a dilapidated baby carriage, out to the garden and into a grove of pecan trees. The buggy is mine. That is, it was bought for me when I was born. It is made of wicker, rather unraveled, and the wheels wobble like a drunkard's legs, but it's a faithful object. Springtime, we take it into the woods and fill it with flowers, herbs, wild ferns for our front porch pots. In the summer, we pile it with picnic paraphernalia and sugarcane fishing poles and roll it down to the edge of the creek. It has its winter use, too. A truck for hauling firewood from the yard to the kitchen, as a warm bed for Queenie, our tough little orange and white rat terrier, who has survived distemper and 2 snake bites. Queenie is trotting beside us now. And he describes going into the pecan orchard that, of course, belongs to someone else. And all that they're able to gather are those pecans that have not been harvested by the orchard owner for sale. And they have to dig and dig and dig under the leaves and the sticks. And then they go back and they begin to pick the pecan meat. If you know, you know. You want to get them out whole and pretty. And she occasionally will give Queenie one of the broken meats. But she tells Buddy and herself, we mustn't allow ourselves, because if we start, we'll never quit. We mustn't, Buddy. If we start, we won't stop. And there's scarcely enough as there is for 30 cakes. The kitchen is growing dark. Dust turns the windows into a mirror. Our reflections mingle, and the rising moon as we work by the fireside in the firelight. At last, when the moon is quite high, we toss the final hulls in the fire, and with joined sighs, watch it catch flame. The buggy is empty, and the milk glass bowl is brimming. We eat our supper, cold biscuits, bacon, and blackberry jam, and discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow, the kind of work I like best begins, buying cherries and citron, ginger and vanilla, and canned Hawaiian pineapple rinds, and raisins and walnuts and whiskey. And oh, so much flour, butter, and so many eggs, spices, flavorings. Why, we'll need a pony to pull our buggy home. They have little to no money to make these purchases. They live by the handouts of the wealthy relatives that live in this house. They talk about making preserves and rounding up flowers for funerals and weddings because they have no money. And then I'll pick up. But one way or another, we do each year accumulate Christmas savings, a fruitcake fund. These monies we keep hidden in an ancient beaded purse under the loose board, under the floor where the chamber pot sits. The purse is seldom removed from the safe location except to make a deposit, or as happens every Saturday, a withdrawal of 10 cents so that I am allowed to go to the picture show. And Buddy's friend never goes to the show. He comes home and tells her the story, the plot, and the scenes. And she takes great pride in knowing that when she gets to heaven, she will be able to stand before God saying she never ate in a restaurant and she never went to a picture show. Here are a few things she has done, that she does and she will do. Killed with a hoe the biggest rattlesnake ever seen in this county, 16 rattles, you know the number of rattles on a rattlesnake. Dip snuff secretly. Tame hummingbirds, just try it, till they balance on her finger. Tell ghost stories, we both believe in ghosts. So tingling they chill you in July. Talk to herself. Take walks in the rain. Grow the prettiest japonicas in town. Know the recipe for every sort of old-time Indian cure, including a magical wart remover. Now, with supper finished, we retire to the room in a faraway part of the house where my friend sleeps, in a scrap quilt-covered iron bed painted rose pink, her favorite color. silently wallowing in the pleasures of conspiracy. We take the bead purse from the secret place and spill its contents on the scrap quilt, dollar bills tightly rolled and green as May buds, somber 50-cent pieces, heavy enough to weigh a dead man's eyes, lovely dimes, the loveliest coin, the one that really jingles, nickels and quarters worn smooth as creek pebbles, but mostly a hateful heap of bitter odored pennies. Last summer, others in the house contracted to pay us a penny for every 25 flies we killed. Oh, the carnage of us. In August, the flies that flew to heaven. Yet it was not work in which we took pride. And as we sit counting pennies, it is as though we were back tabulating dead flies. Neither of us has a head for figures. We count slowly, lose track, start again. According to her calculations, we have $12.73. According to mine, exactly 13. I do hope you're wrong, buddy. We can't mess around with 13. The cakes will fall or put somebody in the cemetery. Why, I wouldn't dream of getting out of bed on the 13th. This is true. She always spends 13ths in bed. So, to be on the safe side, we subtract a penny and toss it out the window. Of the ingredients that go into our fruitcakes, whiskey is the most expensive, as well the hardest to obtain. State laws forbid its sale, but everybody knows you can buy a bottle from Mr. Ha Ha Jones. And let me just take a moment and say, this is an old story written in the 50s. It is not politically correct and highly sensitive. So you will hear language regarding indigenous people that you might find offensive, and we allow the story to stand as it stands. And the next day, having completed our more prosaic shopping, we set out for Mr. Ha Ha's business address, a sinful, to quote public opinion, fish fry and dancing cafe down by the river. And they go on to describe the house and the cafe where they go. And they meet Mr. Jones's wife, and they asked to see him at the door. It is daytime. Ha Ha's is a shabby and deserted establishment. I knock at the door. Queenie barks. My friend calls, "Mrs. Ha Ha, ma'am, anyone home?" Footsteps, the door open, our hearts overturn. It's Mr. Jones himself, and he is giant. He does have scars. He doesn't smile. No, he glowers at us through Satan's tilted eyes and demands to know what you want. What do you want with Ha Ha? For a moment, we are too paralyzed to tell. Presently, my friend half finds her voice, and she whispers, "If you please, Mr. Ha Ha, we'd like a quart of your finest whiskey." Would you believe it? Ha Ha is smiling. And he laughs, too. "Which one of you is a drinking man?" "It's for making fruitcake, Mr. Ha Ha. It's for cooking." This sobers him. He frowns. That's no way to waste good whiskey. Nevertheless, he retreats to the shadows of the cafe. A second later appears carrying a bottle of daisy yellow unlabeled whiskey. He demonstrates its sparkle in the sunlight and says, $2. Well, my friend remarks on our way home, there's a lovely man. We'll put an extra cup of raisins in his cake. The cake making is done over 4 days, and they end up making 31 cakes. Who are they for? Friends. Not necessarily neighbor friends. Indeed, the large share are intended for persons we've met maybe once, perhaps not at all. People who've struck our fancy, like President Roosevelt, like the Reverend and the Mrs. J.C. Lucy, Baptist missionaries to Borneo, who lectured here last winter, or the little knife grinder who comes through town twice a year, or Abner Packer, the driver of the 6 o'clock bus from Mobile, who exchanges waves with us every day as he passes in a dust cloud whoosh, or the young Winstons, a California couple whose car one afternoon broke down outside the house and who spent a pleasant hour chatting with us on the porch. Young Mr. Wilson snapped our picture, the only one we've ever had taken. Is it because my friend is shy with everyone except strangers that these strangers and merest acquaintance seem to be our truest friends? I think yes. Also, the scrapbooks we keep of thank yous on White House stationery, time-to-time communications from California and Borneo. The knife grinder's penny postcard makes us feel connected to eventful worlds beyond the kitchen with its view of a sky that stops. Now a nude December fig branch grates against the window. The kitchen is empty. The cakes are done. Yesterday we carted the last of them to the post office, where the cost of stamps turned our purse inside out. We're broke. We're broke, but my friend insists on celebrating anyway. With 2 inches of whiskey left in Ha-Ha's bottle, Queenie has a spoonful in her bowl of coffee. She likes coffee, chicory flavored and strong. The rest we divide between a pair of jelly jars. We both are quite awed at the prospect of drinking straight whiskey. Remember, he's 7 years old. The taste of it brings a screwed-up expression and a sour shudder. And then the 2 of them begin singing and making merry. And those in the household find out. 2 relatives enter, very angry, potent with eyes that scold, tongues that scald. Listen to what they have to say, the words tumbling together into a wrathful tune. A child of 7, whiskey on his breath, and you out of your mind. Feeding a child of 7 must be loony. Road to ruination. Remember Cousin Kate, Uncle Charlie's brother-in-law. Shame, scandal, humiliation. Kneel, pray, and beg the Lord. Queenie sneaks under the stove. My friend gazes at her shoes. Her chin quivers. She lifts her skirt and blows her nose and runs to her room. Long after the town has gone to sleep and the house is silent except for chimings of the clock and the sputter of the fading fires, she is weeping into a pillow already as wet as a widow's handkerchief. Don't cry, I say, sitting at the bottom of her bed and shivering despite my flannel nightgown. That smells of last winter's cough syrup. Don't cry, I beg. Teasing her toes, tickling her feet. You're too old for that. It's because, she hiccups, I am too old. Old and funny. Not funny fun, more funny than anybody. Listen, If you don't stop crying, you'll be so tired tomorrow we can't go cut the tree. Morning frozen rime lusters the grass. The sun as an orange and an orange as hot weathered moon balances on the horizon, burnishes the silvered winter woods. A wild turkey calls. A renegade hog grunts in the undergrowth. Soon, by the edge of knee-deep, rapid running water, we have to abandon the buggy. And they talk about going through this very boggy area. And then, all of a sudden, my friend shivers too, not with cold, but enthusiasm. One of her hat's ragged roses sheds a petal as she shifts her head and inhales the pine-heavy air. We're almost there. You can smell it, buddy, she says as though we are approaching the ocean. And indeed, it's a kind of ocean. Scented acres of holiday trees, prickly-leaved holly, red berries shiny as Chinese bells. Black crows swoop upon them screaming. Having stuffed our burlap sack with enough greenery and crimson to garland a dozen windows, we set about choosing a tree. It should be, muses my friend, twice as tall as a boy, so he cannot steal the star. Many compliments accompany as they walk back to town, our sunset return, the red clay road to town. But my friend is sly and non-committal when passers-by praise the treasure perched on our buggy. What a fine tree, and where did it come from? Yonder way, she mutters vaguely. Once a car stops, and the rich mill owner's lazy wife leans out and whines, "Give you 2 pits, cash for that old tree." Ordinarily, my friend is afraid of saying no, but on this occasion, she promptly shakes her head. "We wouldn't take $1. The mill owner's wife persists. $1 my foot, 50 cents. That's my last offer. Goodness, woman, you can get another one. An answer my friend gently reflects. I doubt it. There's never 2 of anything. Home, Queenie slumps by the fire and sleeps until tomorrow, snoring as a human. A trunk in the attic contains a shoebox of ermine tails off the opera cape of a curious lady who once rented a room in the house. Coils of frazzled tinsel gone gold with age. 1 silver star. A brief rope of dilapidated, undoubtedly dangerous candy-like light bulbs. Excellent decorations as far as they go, which isn't far enough. My friend wants our trees to blaze like a Baptist window, droop with weighty snow of ornament. But we can't afford the made-in-Japan splendors of the 5 and dime. So we do with what we have. Sit for days in the kitchen at the kitchen table with scissors and crayons and stacks of colored paper. I make sketches and my friend cuts them out. Lots of cats, fish too, because they're easy to draw. Some apples, some watermelons, a few winged angels devised from saved up sheets of Hershey bar tinfoil. We use safety pins to attach these creations to the tree. As a final touch, we sprinkle the branches with shredded cotton picked up in August for this purpose. My friend, surveying the effects, clasped her hands together. Now, honest, buddy, doesn't it look good enough to eat? Queenie tries to eat an angel. After weaving and ribboning holly wreaths for all the front windows, our next project is the fashioning of family gifts. Tie-dye scarves for the ladies, For the men, home-brewed lemon and licorice and aspirin syrup to be taken at the first symptoms of a cold and after hunting. But when it comes time for making each other's gifts, my friend and I separate to work secretly. I would like to buy her a pearl-handled knife, a radio, a whole pound of chocolate-covered cherries. We taste some once, and she always says, "I could live on them, buddy. Lord, yes, I could." And that's not taking the Lord's name in vain. Instead, I am building her a kite. She would like to give me a bicycle, she said so on several million occasions. If only I could, buddy. It's bad enough in life to do without something you want. But confound it, what gets my goat is not being able to give somebody something you want them to have. Only one of these days I will, buddy. I will locate you a bike. Don't ask how, steal it, maybe. Instead, I'm fairly certain that she is building me a kite, the same as last year and the year before. The year before that, we exchanged slingshots, all of which is fine by me. For we are champion kite flyers who study the wind like sailors. My friend, more accomplished than I, can get a kite aloft when there isn't enough of a breeze to carry clouds. Christmas Eve afternoon, we scrape together a nickel and go to the butcher's to buy Queenie the traditional gift, a good gnawable beef bone. The bone, wrapped in funny paper, is placed high in the tree near the silver star. Queenie knows it's there. She squats at the foot of the tree, staring up in a trance of greed. When bedtime arrives, she refuses to budge. Her excitement is equaled by my own. I kick the covers and turn my pillow as though it were scorching a summer night. Somewhere a rooster crows, falsely, for the sun is still on the other side of the world. "Buddy, are you awake?" It's my friend calling from her room, which is next to mine. And in an instant later, she is sitting on my bed, holding a candle. "Well, I can't sleep a hoot," she declares, my mind jumping like a jackrabbit. "Buddy, do you think Mrs. Roosevelt will serve our cake at dinner?" We huddle in the bed, and she squeezes my hand. "I love you. Seems like your hand used to be much smaller. I guess I hate to see you grow up. When you're grown up, will we still be friends?" I say, "Always." "But I feel so bad, buddy. I wanted to give you a bike." I say, I wanted to give you a bike. I say I tried to sell my cameo Papa gave me, buddy. She hesitates as though embarrassed. "I made you a kite, though." Then I confess that I made her one, too. And we laugh. The candle burns too short to hold. Out it goes, and exposing the starlight of the stars spinning at the window like a visible caroling that slowly slowed daybreak's silences. Possibly we doze, and the beginning of dawn splashes us like cold water. We're up, wide awake and wondering while we wait for the others to waken. Quite deliberately, my friend drops a kettle on the kitchen floor. I tap dance in front of the closed doors. One of the households emerge, looking as though they'd like to kill us both. But it's Christmas, so they can't. First, a gorgeous breakfast, just everything you can imagine, from flapjacks and fried squirrel to hominy grits and honey in the comb, which puts everyone in a good humor, except my friend and me. Frankly, we're so impatient to get to presents, we can't eat a mouthful. Well, I'm disappointed. Who wouldn't be? Socks, a Sunday school shirt, some handkerchiefs, a hand-me-down sweater, and a year's subscription to a religious magazine for children, The Little Shepherd. It makes me boil. It really does. My friend has a better haul, a sack of satsumas. Do y'all know what satsumas are? They're oranges. They're special orange that come from South Alabama. A sack of satsumas that is her best present. She is proudest, however, of a white wool shawl knitted for her by her married sister. But she says her favorite gift is the kite I built. And it is very beautiful, though not as beautiful as the one she made me, which is blue and scattered with gold and green good conduct stars. Moreover, my name is painted on it, Buddy. Buddy, the wind is blowing. The wind is blowing, and nothing will do till we've run to the pasture. We unreel our kites, feel them twitching at the string like a sky fish as they swim into the wind. My, how foolish I am, my friend cries, suddenly alert. Like a woman remembering too late she has biscuits in the oven. You know what I've always thought? She asked in a tone of discovery and not smiling at me, but a point beyond. I've always thought a body would have to be sick and dying before they saw the Lord. And I imagined that when he came, it would be like looking at the Baptist window, pretty as colored glass with the sun pouring through, to think that shine taking away. And it's let me go back. Baptist window, pretty as colored glass with the sun pouring through. Such a shine you don't know it's getting dark. And it's been a comfort to think of that shine taking away all the spooky feeling. But I'll wager it never happens. I'll wager at the very end, a body realizes the Lord has already shown himself. That things as they are, and her hands circle in a gesture that gathers clouds and kites and grass and Queenie pawing at the earth over her bone. Just what we've always seen was seeing him. As for me, I could leave the world with today in my eyes. This is our last Christmas together. Life separates us. Those who know best decide that I belong in a military school, and so follows a miserable succession of bugle-blowing, prison-grim, reveille-ridden summer camps. I have a new home, too, but it doesn't count. Home is where my friend is, and there I never go. And there she remains, puttering around the kitchen alone with Queenie, then alone. Buddy dear, she writes in her wild, hard-to-read script. Yesterday, Jim Macy's horse kicked Queenie bad. Be thankful she didn't feel much. I wrapped her in fine linen sheets and rode her in the buggy down to Simpson's pasture, where she can be with all her bones. For a few Novembers, she continues to bake her fruitcakes single-handed. Not as many, but some. And of course, she always sends me the best of the batch. Also, in every letter, she encloses a dime wadded in toilet paper. See a picture show and write me the story. But gradually her letters she sends tend to confuse me with her other friends. The Buddy who died in the 1880s, more and more 13ths are not the only days she stays in bed. A morning arrives in November, a leafless, birdless coming of winter morning, when she cannot rouse herself to exclaim, "Oh my, it's fruitcake weather." And when that happens, I know it. A message saying so merely confirms a piece of news some secret vein had already received, severing from me an irreplaceable part of myself, letting it loose like a kite on a broken string. That is why walking across a school campus on this particular December morning, I keep searching the skies as I expected to see, rather like hearts, a lost pair of kites hurrying toward heaven. Merry Christmas.